Welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago. This week we're looking back at the hot comics from October 29th, 2021, and I'm recording this on April 29th, 2022. Give those dates so that you know when this information is actually relevant, because the market is always moving and changing. And as always, we're looking back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 and the Comic Tom Key Collector Hottest Trending Comics of the Week. There's a lot of new lists out there, but these are the two lists I've been using for basically 3 years at this point, doing this list and trying to determine what's going on with the market. We do this look back so that we can see what factors made these books hot 6 months ago, what's affected them since. We can also see how quickly things change in just 6 months with these books. So we all make a little better decisions about what books we chase in a moment, what books we're patient on. So without further ado, let's dig into the 17 books on this list. First up, we got Old Haunts, #1. This was interesting because it's on here because it's optioned, but it's not really optioned because AWA, the publisher, just decided they were going to make a movie about this themselves, or at least that's what they announced. Caused raw copies of this book to jump up to $30. There's been no news since. We'll see if they're actually able to do this or pull this off. They haven't really made movies before. So now it's a $2 to $15 book. Definitely turned into a giant trap. Marginally a dumpster fire almost, really, because most of the sales are actually under 10, but there's occasionally going for a little more. So this is interesting that people jumped on this for AWA publishing that are trying to make a movie out of their own product. We'll see if that works out. And next we have Edward Scissorhands, #1. This is the first comic with this character in it. And there was no news related to this. This was simply Tom and Russ and Nick speculating on Nick's picks about things that might be ripe for getting rebooted, and they mentioned this, and all their followers caused a 1,500% increase in sales, but it was still only going for $5. I guess it's still now going for 5 to 10, although there's only been 3 sales. Like in 3 months, in the 3 months, there's been no recent sales of this. I mean, I guess you could argue this is steady and worth it, but not really, because you're not removing this book. There's been no news, no speculation beyond them that this was going to get rebooted. They just were like, oh, that might be a fun project to reboot. Yeah. That would have been definitely a poor choice if you chased that one. Next, we have Super Crooks, #1. Another Millarverse product. The trailer came out for the animated series of this on Netflix. These Millarverse things have not performed well. Back then, this jumped up to just a $10 to $15 book with a 9.8 going for $100. But now it's a $5 to $10 book. 9.8 recent sale went for $30. There's just been no record of these Millarverse stuff performing well, even long term, after any kind of announcement or when the show came out. I didn't even know this actually came out and was a thing. So there you go. I'd forgotten about this. Well, as you can see, I didn't do a cash or trash this week, so there's been no, I didn't have any predictions, so I didn't even know this was out. I know this has hit the list a few times, but next we have Dune #1. This hit the list because the movie was released. So the new movie was released, so the original comic to the original movie hit the list. Back then, raw copies were up to $25. 9.8 was doing sort of $300 to $600. There'd been a $600 sale, but the most recent sales have been $3. So it had already kind of dropped back a little bit from the trailer and stuff. But that was kind of the range back then. Now it's a $10 to $25 book. The only 9.8 sale recently was for $500, so still in that range. But overall, the vast majority of sales are on the raw side and are down and sort of an I'll be back. We'll see. I know they're supposedly working or getting ready to start working on more movies. We'll see how that does. I haven't yet actually sat down and watched it. I need to. I just haven't done it. Because I've never read Dune or anything, so I kept telling myself I'm going to watch it, and I just haven't got it done. Next, we have Batman Fortnite Foundation #1. This hit the list because it had a code in it for a skin of the Batman Who Laughs that you could get in the game. If you could buy the skin in the game, but it was going to cost $20. So people were paying $10 to get the free skin from the comic. So basically half price. Now it's a $3 to $10 book. Yeah, this is a weird book to like spec. I mean, clearly it was just people buying it for the code. So definitely a down and I'll be back because once you had the code, people didn't want it. So yeah, definitely these Fortnite. This is a couple times these Fortnite books hit the list because of for people trying to get the skins, but there's definitely a cap to that kind of market because you can go buy the skin typically for just a little bit more in the game. With that, we're going to move into covers. We have, 3 covers this week is all. But first up, we have House of Slaughter, #1. The Christian 1 per store. This was going for $30 to $40 at release. Now it's a $10 to $15 book, although there was a sale for $40. But there's really only been 5 sales of this. 4 of the 5 have been $10 to $15, and then there's 1 sale for $40. But there's a ton of listings for $10 to $20. So that $40 sale, I put it on here, but it's clearly an outlier, and it's kind of when you want to look. You don't want to just look at the most recent sale. You want to look at the last several sales, see where the market actually is. Clearly, there's an outlier. Something was going on there. Maybe somebody just didn't do any research, or maybe there's some shenanigans. I don't know for sure, but you get those outlier sales every so often that you should be aware of. So, but overall, this definitely turned into a trap. This series has not received the kind of audience support that that Something's Killing the Children have. People have not been as happy with House of Slaughter. So we'll see what happens. Is it supposed to be coming back? If it picks up in its second run here or not? Next, we have Once and Future, #21, the John Boy Myers 1 in 25. We haven't actually had a John Boy Myers for a while on the list, but this one did make the list, and it was going for 75 plus at release, which typically means it got over that 3 times ratio, which usually means it holds pretty well. This one did not, though. This one turned into a trap. So this one's back down to a $35 book. 9.8 will cost you $150, but not many sales of those. So yeah, this one got just above like the line where I say, okay, once it gets past triple, they usually do pretty well. But in this case, this one broke the rules and still backed up a little bit, or backed up significantly. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but yeah, it usually takes at least triple to be sustainable. In this case, even that wasn't enough. Next, we have Wonder Woman Black and Gold, #5, the Rose Besh 1 in 25. This one got to 85 to 100, so it was definitely well over triple, pushing quadruple ratio back then. And this one just taken off. It's actually an up in a straight cash book. We don't see many of those lately. And it's up to $150 to $200 book raw. 9.8 is going $3 to $450. So yeah, this one definitely has performed well and is up. I'll be honest, I still Rose Besh is very hit or miss for me. This is not one I particularly like, but clearly I am in the minority as this book goes for big money and people clearly love it. Not a cover for me though, so glad that I'm not like chasing it, given these prices. Next, we have Black Widow #12. This is the first appearance of Living Blade, who was kind of the final villain in this Black Widow run. That unfortunately for me ended at 15. I really love this run. This character was very interesting. We'll see if he comes back. Back then, released with this new first appearance was $10 to $15. Now it's a $5 to $12 book, so still going cover and above, but not big money. 9.8 only costs you $40 to $60. So definitely just a classic I'll be back of a new character with a little buzz release, but hasn't really amounted to much yet. With that, we're going to move into a couple of DC TV/movie related stuff. First one doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but hey, this would have probably been a rant back on Cash or Trash. And it's Detective Comics number 988, first appearance of Lady Firefly. And this hit the list because there was a 2,000% increase in sales because it didn't really go up in value, which makes some sense. It was only a $5 book. But Tom and I put it on the list anyway because of that 2,000% increase in sales, because Brendan Fraser was cast as the original Firefly in the Batgirl movie. So we were chasing the first appearance of Lady Firefly. Realized the first appearance of Firefly is a Golden Age book. Yeah, like nearly. I think it's, or is it early silver? I think it's Golden Age. Anyway, super hard to get, super expensive. Yeah, I get that. But why you would chase this one doesn't really make a lot of sense. But it's still a $5 to $10 book. Way down on sales though. So I guess another like steady and worth it, like I talked about with that Edward Scissorhands. Another one wasn't really hot on the list. But anyway, it's holding at $5. So if you got it for basically cover, then you did okay. Next, we have Earth 2, number 19, first appearance of Val Zod. And basically, this has hit the list. This has been on the list along with some other books related to the African American Superman. Well, we got confirmation that the Michael B. Jordan project that had been rumored was Val Zod. That caused us to hit the list again. Raw copies up to $75. 9.8 we're up to $300 to $600. Now it's a $50 to $100 book raw. 9.8 $400 to $500. Right in the middle of that range, although there was one sale for $9. Clearly another outlier, but it was definitely on. There was a sale for that much. So this has been pretty steady and worth it. It stayed right in this kind of range that it was in back then. So with that, we're going to move into MCU and a lot of very weak MCU spec that was on this list that week. Back then, our next book was Incredible Hulk number 92, the first Planet Hulk. Rumors that we were getting a Planet Hulk movie. We had one of those books, a different book related to Planet Hulk last week. Don't really see this ever, like the rights are all screwed up on Hulk in a movie, but we'll see. But back then 9.8 jumped up to $275 $300. Now a 9.8 will cost you $160 to $325. So still part of that upper end of the range, is still part of the range, but lots of sales down around $200 and down a little bit. Raw copies will cost you $15 to $65. Pretty wide range on a raw copy for that. Some of that's conditioned, some of that's just auctions versus buy it nows. Some of it's just variability. But anyway, this is overall basically down and I'll be back. You can definitely find deals on this book compared to 6 months ago. Next, we have Deadpool number 2. And this maybe should have been in the covers, but given the next book, I thought this should fit here. This is the Mirka Andolfo number 1 in 25. This is from the 2020 Deadpool run. And this is basically just an Elsa Bloodstone cover. And this was speculation that she's going to be in some MCU project. So people were chasing covers, kind of like they did with Miles. And back then, a 9.8 of this cover was up to $400 because it was kind of hard to find. Now, raw copies are still going really strong at 1 to 140, so I doubt they've backed up much. But the 9.8s have a little bit, 275 to 325. So they're definitely down, and I'll be back. I would guess the 1 to 140, that's pretty high on a raw copy for a book that's only 300-ish on the 9.8. So, yeah, I would guess that they haven't backed up as much. But still, overall, and I'll be back. So, yeah, we'll see. I think the rumor is now we're getting her in the Halloween special thing. So, we'll see if we're going to get very much, actually, of her. If all the spec on her has been worth it or not. And next we have Next Wave, Agents of Hate, number 1. And this is kind of the first appearance of the revamped Elsa Bloodstone. If you see the classic cover of the blonde and all that kind of stuff, well, this is, now she's a redhead and that, so they basically kind of revamped the character. This is where they did that. The first book where the redesign appears. This book was up to $50, 9.8 going for $300 plus. Now, $25 to $100 on the raw side, so you can get bargains, but definitely more overall. Average is still around that 50-ish to 60-ish range, so up a little bit maybe, but 9.8 still are definitely up, around $450 for 9.8 right now. So overall, this is up. I debate on worth versus straight cash, given most of the sales are raw copies. So I put straight cash, but it's probably technically worth it now the more I think about it as I'm recording this. So anyway, I know I went back and forth on this like 3 times already. But anyway, up for this book. Still a lot of people betting on Elsa Bloodstone. Next, we have X-Men number 95, the first appearance of Fizz, and this is a Skrull character that was supposedly cast, I think for the Secret Wars or the Marvels or something. I don't remember now. I didn't write down which project it was cast for, but supposedly the Skrull was cast for the MCU. Caused raw copies of this book to jump to $15 to $20. 9.8 sitting at 160. Didn't make a lot of sense. Those were going for more than Talos's first appearance were going for at that point, and he'd actually already appeared, and we know he's appearing again. So yeah, so these not a best spec necessarily on Skrulls, but anyway, raw copies now are $2 to $15. 9.8 down to 100 to 150. Raw site definitely turned into a trap for sure, which is the vast majority of the sales. 2 books left. Next we have Captain Marvel number 17. First appearance of Phyla Vell. A lot of people specking on this, given that we know the next Guardians is going to be the last Guardians with this crew. So people are specking on this. Caused raw copies to jump to 125. Now raw copies are 30 to 100, so definitely have backed up significantly. 9.6. No recent 9.8 sales. 9.6 is going 150 to 170. Overall, there was, to rephrase, one 9.8 sale, but it was signed and it went for 250. So yeah, averages on the raws around 60 for that wide range of 30 to 100. So definitely another trap book. We don't know when we're getting this character, how soon that's going to be. It could be years. We're still over a year from the release of Guardians 3, I believe. I don't think it's supposed to come out till 23. So yeah, we're ways out. So definitely people have backed off this book a little bit. Actually, quite a bit. Next, our last book of the week is Incredible Hulk number 449. First appearance of the Thunderbolts. Back then, people have been specking on that related to, the character in the Captain America show. I can't remember the new Cap. I can't remember his name now. John Walker. And the new Yelena, that there might get with Yelena taking over as Black Widow, that we might get a Thunderbolt show. Back then, raw copies were going for 150, 9.8 up to $840 for a high sale. Now raw copies will cost you 50 to 200. 9.8s are 5 to 600. So this is kind of an I'll be back, because most of the sales still are on the raw side. A few sales higher than the 150 mark, but most are underneath it. We'll be interesting to see what they do with William Hurt passing. If they still do a Thunderbolts, I think they could. They got Julia Louis-Dreyfus already cast as that other character, that she could still be the leader and just call them the Thunderbolts and say that they're were the design of General Ross or whatever. So I think we'll probably still get them, but it would be interesting to see if this maybe changes their plans slightly. So with that, that's this week's list. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.